Welcome to Beyond the Box #influencer. I'm the host, Sherry Langbert, and this show covers influencer marketing from a brand agency and creator perspective. If you think women dominate on social media, today's episode is guaranteed to change your mind. Our guest on the show is Joe from Joe's Daily, the leading lifestyle men's blogger with more than a decade as a content creator under his belt. Whether you're a marketer seeking to target male audiences or simply curious to learn more about influencer marketing from a man's perspective, today's segment is perfect for you. Hi, Joe. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm just going to start with asking you, can you please pronounce your last name for us?
Sure. It's Joe Maragliata.
Okay.
It wasn't fun in school.
It's a hard one. It's a hard one.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining. I would love, so Joe, everyone is from Joe's Daily. Can you just tell me, I think we've been working
Sure.
with you for a long time. So tell us about
For
your
a
blog.
while.
Yeah.
Sure. So Joe's Daily is kind of my elevator pitch, is like a men's lifestyle and travel blog. I'm a content creator, so of course I'm all over social media. Everything's Joe's Daily. But yeah, so I currently live outside of St. Louis with my wife Sarah, my dog Holly, rescue dog. Got our year pandemic dog, saved her, she saved us type of thing. But yeah, I lived in LA for 17 years. And honestly, that's where my blog kind of kicked off. Was I did random marketing jobs. I used to be a magician's marketing director and do movie marketing. And meanwhile, I was doing my blog, like a lot of content creators, kind of filling their void of creating content, because that's what we've all kind of wanted to do. And I've been doing it for a while now. And yeah, wouldn't change it for a thing.
That's awesome. It's always good to hear. So, in understanding a little bit more about you, you had this passion for photography, and how did that morph into you, creating this men's lifestyle blog?
Yeah. So basically, it was a mixture of things. I had passion for photography and just content creation in general, whatever that looked like years ago, and now. But yeah, so what happened was, a lot of colleagues in the space could probably agree. We start off creating content, and then you're like, okay, cool, I got this product, I want to take a photo of it. Our iPhones aren't enough. I mean, they are great, but sometimes you want a nice little depth of field and some crisper raw editing techniques you can apply with a nice camera. So I just bought my first camera. It was pretty entry level and self-taught. Just went online like a lot of people do, YouTube, blog posts, and read about how to use it. And I just got better over the years. And so I kind of turned that into another part of the Joe's Daily umbrella, which was like, maybe selling photography sets to brands if they liked it, or when I'm traveling, give it to the tourism, and it kind of just became an organic thing. Just like, we have to create videos nowadays just because it's content's king, right? So yeah, just a passion hobby turned into a career, just like my blog turned into a career as well. So yeah.
Okay. And so like technically, like people don't even say blog like the newer people in this space, right?
True.
So we're like, I'm gonna, not coin us, but I'll say you're a veteran in this space. What does it feel like to be like one of the first?
I'm just very grateful that I'm still kicking, and I was able to adapt during ups and downs of various, the flooded market of new people coming in and essentially taking the brand deals from away from people that have been around for a while. Not taking them, they earned them, but I'm saying,
But it's happening. It's a reality.
it's just like anything in the world, right? So I know I've been very lucky. So calling myself a veteran, it's kind of wild. I didn't even think of it like that, but no, it feels great, honestly, to see everything adapt in the way it's gone. And like I said, being able to stay afloat and take care of my family and keep doing what I love. That was like my main goal. I didn't care if I made less money than I did at my marketing job. I just wanted to do what I loved. And to this day, I've been doing it. So just very lucky is how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I wanted to be a writer, and my dad was like, "You can't be a writer. That's not a career." And I was like a business systems analyst, which is the most boring of boring jobs. And so, yeah, now I feel like I'm a writer, but through all of you,
Sure.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So tell me, in the past few years, like, what do you think the most exciting? There's a lot of change. I mean, when you and I started, I don't even think Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest, none of
Uh-uh.
these things existed. So what's been
No.
the most exciting thing for you?
I think the exciting thing I'm seeing is how brands are giving, I would say, I like video. I haven't really fully gone in on video like you see like with TikTok and Instagram stories and stuff, but I like what they're doing. I like what's happening, despite some people having some criticism towards that. But for me, I think it's how brands are working with niche content creators. I think there's a lot of them out there. And I think the fact that it's opened the doors. And when I first started, it was like you had to really hard label yourself. You couldn't really be just like a broad creator or a hyper niche. You kind of had to be on the nose for that specific brand to work with you. I think it was because it was such a new space. A lot of people were like scared, meaning brands were scared to like figure out this new type of marketing, right? And as you said, like Instagram and Twitter were there, but they weren't really a thing. People didn't think about like, oh, I can make money off posting to these things, you know? Yeah, so I'm just excited to see where the next evolution is going to go. Like, you know, you see a lot of the AR, augmented reality, virtual reality, stuff like that. I'm not saying it's really here yet for branding, but I like what they're doing with it. You know, you see like the fun floating head things on TikTok, right. You know, people do. Yeah, I mean, that's really neat. A great way for brands to incorporate that. And I'm always trying to find ways of doing that with my own stuff. So I think just like the technology is ever changing. And I think that's exciting.
Are you on TikTok? I'm not sure.
I am on TikTok, but I will say I like TikTok a lot. I love it. I'm on it all the time. My wife and I are on it as physically like users. As for content creation, I definitely am not consistent. I want to be. I haven't really figured out what I want to do there yet. I do know that whenever I do travel, you'll start seeing me post more. So like, you know, I have a trip this weekend to Europe on a cruise, and I know I'm going to be producing a bunch of content. But see, I don't like going back and then I'm not traveling and then I'm not posting content. So what my goal is to find a nice downtime strategy. So I'm at home, I can maybe make educational videos about, I don't know, travel, you know, educational travel videos, but it's always easier for me to be inspired with content when I'm traveling or when I'm, you know, physically working with a brand or a product. Right. So yeah, I'm on it, but I don't have a consistent plan yet, which I hope.
That's okay. With. I think it's still, I think oddly, I think it's still really new and early.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you talk about travel, and in knowing you, cars and travel, your two sweet spots were probably the two industries that have in different ways been most impacted or very heavily impacted by the pandemic.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Like, how did that change?
Well, yeah, let's talk about the impact of that. So obviously, I read a lot about a lot of things, but as you touched on, travel and cars also go hand in hand. A lot of times I travel to go test drive a car, which obviously during the pandemic was hard. Matter of fact, my first trip out was still in kind of the heat of everything. Everyone was safe, wearing masks and, you know, making sure everything was safe, but it was very awkward and very difficult to really get the same vibes we had on other trips where you would be driving in a car with a fellow colleague, maybe even one of the technicians in the car that worked on the car, like, you know, to have like an interview process while you're driving the car. That's changed dramatically. Now that's like, hey, let's have a Zoom meeting with them and then we'll send you a car to test drive, which is great, but it's not as nice to not be able to have that one-on-one in person with multiple people in the brand in this space, like maybe like a BMW or Lexus, whatever. But that's changed dramatically. I do think we're getting back to a new normal. A lot of my colleague friends, actually, I have a friend James just went on a nice GMC trip. So I'm happy to see him out there doing some road trips. And I have a few potentially coming up in a few months. So that changed dramatically. And I think that it's going to change the industry for a new way that we haven't seen before. As for travel, pretty self-explanatory. Travel is just now getting back to a new normal, but a more normal we're used to, which I'm excited about. You know, you've got, sure, there's a lot of new checks you have to do to get in and out of countries and stuff like that. And I'll be experiencing that very soon. I go to Canada next month. I go to Alaska, Vancouver, and then I go to Alaska. But so I'll experience that. But yeah, I'm going into Turkey this weekend and I'm already seeing all these new protocols in place. And I'm like, oh, this is new. It's okay though. They're handling it very well. I figured out how to do it. It's not very difficult. But yeah, as for me as a business person doing this, yeah, about a 2-year lull, you know, and that's tough. You know, writing from press releases isn't as fun as experiencing the trip itself. Right. So once again, grateful to be in this business still and thriving, but yeah, travel and cars definitely took a major hit. And I think we're just now seeing it get back to a normal. So
yeah, we actually talked about this, that like all of a sudden people are saying, oh, automotive is getting into influencer. We're like, wait a minute, that's how influencer really started back in the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, just for selfish purposes, because I'm trying to figure out some planning of vacations, and everything seems to be skyrocketing. As the travel guru, where would you recommend to go? And yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
curious.
that's a little bit of a loaded question, and I love it. I love it, and I've had that a lot actually lately. But I'll say this right off the bat. I would
So
say
Montana, to go to Montana is more expensive than to go to Europe right now.
true, true. And so this is all I could say because I don't know. I'm not like checking prices. I don't have like any like secret hack there necessarily, other than just being active with, you sign up for those deals you see on, Southwest and United, all the airlines. Sign up for those subscribe letters because they'll send you discounts, like pretty crazy discounts, like on the fly. If you can book on the fly, good. Be flexible is all I can say. Is if you want a good discount. I know not everyone can do that, but if you're saving up your vacation time, try to get a little flexible. But no, I'll say this. Despite gas prices, even in, car fuel gas prices, I would say road trips. I know you're probably not asking about that. I'd say take advantage of road trips. This is a good time to learn about what's around you. I think a lot of people have this idea of vacation being like, I got to fly to Mexico. I got to go to the Caribbean. I got to go to Europe. And don't get me wrong, I love all those places. I do them as much as I can. But lately, what my wife and I have been doing is taking advantage of any road trip opportunity, especially now being in a new spot in the Midwest.
Yeah.
I mean, we went to Omaha to meet some of her work colleagues. Sure, it's Omaha, Nebraska, not somewhere I want to go, but I got to experience something new and exciting, and I made the best of it. Check into road trip, check in what's around you, maybe a few hours away, maybe 8 hours away. You'd be surprised what you get out of it. You probably save a lot of money. But as for flights, there's been a lot of great credit card points. They're dropping all these amazing opportunities for if you're in the market for maybe a new travel card. You basically can get your flights free at this point now if you plan smart. So I'd say look into that. I know it's not exactly what everyone wants to say. I'll open a new credit card, but let me tell you, like it's no joke that it's a travel hack. A lot of people don't know that. They don't take advantage of them, I should say. And you can get some.
No,
really
I know
good
with my
discounts.
Delta, I have like all these free. Last year we went away for it. Like my
Yeah,
son came for free.
yeah, and I'm
It's
telling you,
awesome.
like people don't realize they hear the annual fee of like $100, $200. What they don't know is that the deals you get from owning the card, it goes way past that annual fee.
Right.
So if you can
Right.
put yourself past that, you're building up your credit, you get great travel points, and it pays for itself. Just look into it. I mean, there's plenty of great websites out there that I don't cover that stuff personally, other than if you asked me the question like you just did.
Yeah.
I don't cover it on my website, but there are plenty of other great, reliable websites out there that can provide you great information like that. So hope that helped.
Yeah, it did because I'm like in the throes and I'm like freaking out. But thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
I'm gonna ask a question about like, we work with influencers all the time. I'm gonna say like it's very challenging to find
Mhm.
male influencers. A
Mhm.
little bit easier now because maybe they're on Instagram only, but how has it been? Like, how did you carve out this area? How has it been working in a predominantly female focused industry? And do you feel that?
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't really think about that very much until the other day. Someone actually said that exact question, like, "How do you feel about that?" And I was like, "Huh, interesting." So after thinking about it, I would say, well, first to your first question, like, how did I make my way through it? I just didn't care. I don't care that maybe there's more women in the space because the truth is we're all writing about our own stuff. It kind of goes back to like just write about what you know. I think when it comes down to it, not to say there's plenty of women that could speak on what I write about because I don't write about primarily men's. I just put the men's lifestyle because I'd say about 80-90% are more interested in my content than women are, right? Unless they're maybe shopping for their hubby or their, brother, whatever. But yeah, as for working in the space with I've been on plenty of press trips with like 80% women. And I love it. I love it because I get inspiration from other groups. It doesn't have to be, it could be men too, of course, but I'm saying sometimes I hear how they work things out, right? How they work out problems, maybe even how they approach their photography. I mean, it's amazing. Like just for me, I'd rather work with a diverse crowd, in this case being more women, than me being with the same, almost like the same bubble, right? And I'm just like, I'm lacking inspiration. We all talk about the same thing. Maybe we all wrote about the same thing, but when I hear other inspiration, and I know this isn't the exact same, but I want to give you one example. So it's not really a women comment, but it kind of goes in the same vein of that. I was on a cruise not too long ago on Wonder of the Seas, brand new cruise ship, biggest in the world. And I met a bunch of cruise YouTubers. That's all they did, YouTube. And I'm on YouTube, but I've been wanting to kickstart my YouTube channel. And even though this doesn't really answer your question about like working with women, I just want to
Okay.
use it to translate. All of a sudden, I had all this inspiration. I saw the way they worked their YouTube videos. That's all they did. I mean, they have Instagram too, but no, their bread and butter is YouTube. And I was like, man, I love cruising. I do a lot of cruising because of my job. I'm like, I would love to do this. I'd love to get back into YouTube and doing this vloggy style content. And that goes the same with, like I said, going back to your original question, it's like working in a predominantly women focused industry. And by the way, this goes with the agency, right? Not just my colleagues, but like people like you yourself working in the agency. I'd say it's like 80% women usually, maybe more, maybe less, but around the same. And I'll tell you, I've always had a better experience working with a woman along, whether it's on a phone call, an email, or just getting the business done like the way it needs to be handled. And so for me, it's been awesome. I love it.
Okay.
And I'm grateful that I'm able to once again be in this space and this position I'm in. And hopefully I'm helping on the other side of things, right? So if
Yeah.
I can drive inspiration for women in the space as well, so.
Yeah, we need more men like you because often we're like struggling. So I'm going to ask you, like, if someone's
Mhm,
tuning in that is thinking about getting into this space and they don't know
mhm.
how, what advice would you give to an influencer who's a male who might be wanting to carve a niche in this space?
Sure. Honestly, I always say, first off, just do it. Literally, I started this business because it was almost like a diary for me, a public diary. It was like, I'm writing about stuff I like. I'm away from my family and friends from New Hampshire. This is like my early years in Los Angeles because that's where I moved from. And I remember just being like, I need an outlet. And I've never been one of those people that's I'm very public about what I like to share. And that's why social media was so big for me. And then my blog, when I started creating any type of content, I was just like putting it out there. And I think what a lot of men, maybe they don't like that. I don't want to get into this whole psychology of men and women, how they share content, but I do feel like a lot of my friends, I have a lot of men in the space that aren't content creators yet, but they're great creators. And I'm like, hey, you should just put yourself out there. And a lot of times they're just a little hesitant. They second guess themselves. And I tell them, I guess this can go for any advice, but I tell them, I'm like, it create your content. You'll be so happy you put it out there. And then when you get a little feedback, you're going to love the feedback. It's going to make you better. And I think that just don't be scared about feedback and get excited about creating content, stuff you love, and honestly, write about what you love, write about what you like. Don't try to be someone else. You'll be ever changing. I don't even know what I wrote about 8 years ago, to be honest. And I don't care to look. I'm new content all the time. And now I'm into this. I was into that then. Now I'm into this, and I think that most new creators need to know that put yourself out there, create content, and the rest will kind of follow. Money wasn't ever in my mind. And then it kind of organically came later. And I think a lot of people get stuck in the mindset of like, I'm only doing this for money. I'm like, well, you might be in the wrong position. You might be doing the wrong
Takes a
job.
long
Yeah, it
time.
takes a while, but nowadays
Yeah.
it could be quicker than ever with the amount of content we need out there, right? So
Yeah, but
yeah,
it does take a long time.
yeah.
So now the flip side, I
Sure.
feel so when I started out in this space, and you might not know this about me, I had one blog and it was all about focus on single living. So cooking for
Oh,
one, not dating, travel for one, cooking for one.
that's
And
cool.
no one cared about it. Like they were just like, no, we want mom. No, we want mom. So my question to you is, is there any advice you could give to brands? Do you think brands are focusing enough on men?
That's a good question. I do think I'm doing just fine in the sense of like, I've never been like jealous of like seeing all maybe like, I mean, sure, women get a lot of great products and stuff like that, like apparel and stuff. I do too, but you see a little bit more, I would say, in that industry, which rightfully so. I feel like if you look at the statistics of why shopping, not just like women shop more, no, it's the products that they're shopping for, right?
Yeah.
But no, I do think brands could be a little bit more strategic. I will say this, the hyper focused men's products, it's a little bit too in your face. I feel like, the dude wipes, like you see these
Right,
like
right,
products like that,
right.
nothing against them. I have a few friends that do marketing for companies like that and they kick butt doing it. But no, I think whenever you got like the more universal brands that are good for men and women,
They
whatever
should
that may
put in
be.
more men.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And honestly, you see that a lot. Like I'll go on a trip and I'll be the only guy on the trip and I'll be like, well, I'm grateful that they thought of me,
There's not
clearly,
enough people.
but
There's not enough
it's
qualified
probably
men.
that. Yeah, no. And you know what? Maybe it is, they need to open that door a little bit further and give us a chance and see what content we can create. Cause I will say, yeah, there's not a lot of guys in the space that do what I do. I mean, there are, but not if you looked at like the balance of the women's niche
Yeah.
of whatever that
Yeah.
may be to,
And
you know,
also keeping
yeah,
in mind that there's always like criteria. So the person must have this, the person might have to have a dog, the person might have to live
yeah,
in a certain area. So then,
yeah.
there's so many female creators, but then when you have the criteria and you try to find the men, It's
Yeah.
really very hard to, get men on a campaign. So if anyone's a man out there, please take Joe's advice and get into this space.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I mean, I tell everyone it only takes a few hours a day, maybe not even that, to create some cool content. It might be like I said, like a little bit of a release, getting out, just creating some content can like free up your mind for if you're
Yeah.
you got a day job. I had a day job for a long time in addition to doing blogging.
While you were
So
doing this.
absolutely. Like I said, I didn't do this for money at first. I didn't. And then I was like, I love this. I don't care if I'm making bare minimum. I love this. So I've just been lucky enough to do it and make a living, like a good living. So,
And go
yeah.
on vacations for free.
And exactly. Yeah. Also,
That-
too, not to do the whole universe thing. I do believe in the whole like put
Me
good vibes
too.
out to the universe. But I'll tell you this. I'll give you a real example. I'm going on a cruise, and I said to myself, man, like just like how I created my blog, I wrote about what I liked. It was almost like I was drawing the universe to me. And I remember one day being like, man, I really want to go to a Europe cruise. It's been so long. And next thing you know, I got an email from Costa Cruises like, hey, we're going to Turkey. You want to come? Yep. And then I was like, oh man, I really need some new boat shoes. I really want something to dress up my nights out on the nice nights in the Mediterranean. Company reached out, hey, we got some new shoes we want you to try. And I was like, I really do believe that. And it's not like I'm like trying to like work the system. It's just, I wasn't thinking like, oh, it's going to come to me. I just was like, I really want this. So I'm going to write about it. And it happens, so
I'm going to try that. Did you see We Crash?
What's that?
Did you see the documentary We Crash?
No, it's on my list. It's on my list. It's on my list.
Well, you'll know what I'm referring to if you watch it.
Okay.
And then you could get back to me.
Absolutely.
So before I ask my last question, I'm going to ask
Sure.
you so that everyone can listen. And how can brands hit you up if you want to share? What's the best way to reach you?
Oh, cool. Yeah. I mean, everything these days I'm open. Like if you DM me on Instagram at Joe's Daily, joe@joesdaily.com is usually the most common. It's my email. But yeah, DMs are fine. Emails are fine. Any which way they would like to reach out, I'm happy to coordinate. Also, I just want to point out too, that's a big thing for me is conversation. Not everything has to be like, oh, we're going to pay you this much. Let's start a conversation. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of times I'm the one having to ask. You asked earlier, what can brands do? Ask, talk. I think sending out a cold email is better than not. And then being like, oh, we got to make sure we have a budget for them. No, not necessarily. If we build a relationship, that could come later. That's just like my business started with no money. It's like, for me, it's like, let's get the conversation going. And then maybe.
And if you're passionate about it.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
Awesome.
Yeah. Sure.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask the last question. So I hope I get a good answer. Name an influencer you love to follow, but hate to admit that you do.
Okay. So they used to be a duo. But I'm going to narrate. They were a couple. They broke up recently. So have you heard of Gypsy Lust and Do You Travel? No. Okay. First off, follow them. They're as much as I'm about to tell you why I hate it. So yeah, Gypsy Lust is the female, and the male is Jack. His name is now Jack Morris. He changed his name from Do You Travel, which was his famous name for the longest time, to now Jack Morris. Let me tell you why. I don't hate the guy. Don't know the guy. I'm jealous. Like I'm not one of those people that likes to be envious or jealous of anything. Because I live such a, like, I don't use the word blessed very often, but I live a blessed life. I mean, like you mentioned my travels. I mean, the amount of travel I've done in 3 months could like take someone's entire like lifetime of travel. I mean, I'm very lucky. But then you look at him and you're like, good Lord, this guy, not only does he just have the most beautiful photos, the guy just travels literally nonstop. Like, I don't think he's in a place for more than a week. Now that could be tiring, exhausting, right? But then his like beautiful bungalow in Bali where his like mansion is, and I'm just like, so he has this as his like back burner. He rents it out during the year, makes a ton of money out of it. I'm just like, man, I don't like to be jealous very often, but this guy, I love him, but I hate to follow him.
I feel the same way about Jess Wandering. Do you know her?
Oh yeah. I follow her. Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I changed my backdrop because like she was making me jealous. Like I'm like, oh, she's in these islands in Greece, and then she's in these national parks. I'm like, who knew? But yeah, it's the same sentiment. So I will check them out. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Welcome. We love working with you. So everyone, make sure to check out Joe's Daily. He's awesome.
Thank you.
And be in touch and have a great time on the trip and a safe time on the trip.
Thank you so much for everything. We appreciate, honestly, I love everything you guys do, and I appreciate you guys taking the time out. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of BattlBox #Influencer. Visit podcast.battlebox.com to get additional insights and full transcript. You can find our podcast channel via Apple, Google, YouTube, and Spotify. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button today to stay up to date on the latest episodes.